Ms.T.AkshayaJayakumar, Assistant Professor, Department of English SF, Nirmala College for Women, Coimbatore. The topic of the day is going to be Starlight Nights by Gerald Manley Hopkins, and Hopkins is a Victorian writer. Let's look into the topic in detail. The lecture is divided into three sections: introduction to our poet Gerald Manley Hopkins. The second part, the reading of the poem. Simultaneously, we'll discuss the analytical part of the poem. Finally, we'll discuss the theme of the poem. So let's get into the author's introduction. The author belongs to Victorian era. Victorian era covers from 1837 to 1901. During this period, classicism was at its peak. There was Victorian stereotyping. Victorian stereotyping led to Victorian revolutionary movements. So, Victorian revolutionary movements like Industrial Revolution, French Revolution. So, Industrial Revolution and publication of Origin of Species by Charles Darwin had a larger impact in the Victorian society, followed by the debate on science and religion, which is a chaotic wave in the minds of the people of Victorian society, was beautifully expressed by Matthew Arnold in his work Dover Beach. The concept of classism and evils of the society was highlighted by Dickens in his work, and the female injustice was highlighted by many female writers like Mary Wollstonecraft, George Eliot, T.S. Bronte, Virginia Woolf, etc. Our writer Hopkins is a kind of a person who wrote about the religious belief which resulted, like the damage of religious belief, which resulted in the loss of peace and social turmoil in the Victorian minds. Some of the important works of the writer are God's Grandeur, Pied Beauty, Wreck of Duchess Land. All these works of the writer had the religious touch in them. And followed by, let us talk about background of the poem before getting into the content of the poem. So the poem was a sonnet which was written in 1877, and by this poem we can understand the writer is an observer of nature, and also he has bring in a lot of complexities of the society into the nature. He compared it with the nature. And let's get into the poem. First, let me tell you about the title of the poem, The Starlight Nights. So the Starlight Night is about the writer is trying to bring in the industrial revolution and the quest for materialism of the people, where people started forgetting about the importance of towards the aesthetics of the nature, to appreciate nature. So here the writer is trying to bring in the focus of the people, of the readers, into the poem. First, he starts the poem like, look at the stars, look up at the skies. Oh, look at all the fire folk sitting in air. The bright bogs, the circle Seattle there. Down in dim woods, the diamond devils, the elves' eyes. The writer is trying to grab the attention of the readers by saying, look at the stars, look up, look at the skies. So the word look is trying to make us understand how the writer is trying to bring in the readers into the setting of the poem. The second line, we can see the fire folk sitting in the air. So fire folk sitting in the air here refers to the stars in the skies, and he also brings in another personified way of explaining about the stars, like bright bogs, circle Seattles. So all these things he refers to the stars in the sky. And also he is telling people are not looking up at the empty space, empty sky, and he is also trying to bring in the dim woods. The dim woods here is compared to the blank space above the man's head. And he is also trying to bring in the diamond devils, the elf's eyes. Here the elf's eyes is the reference to the stars in the sky. And the writer is also bringing in a lot of reference to the wind beats, white wind beats, airy Abels set on the flare, flex dough sent floating forth at the armyard's care. Well, it is all purchase, all is price. So the writer is trying to bring in the unknown number of precious stones which we find in mines are compared to the stars in the skies. And he also says it is all purchase, all is a price, where he is trying to insist on the point that if you look at this sky, if you look at the nature and enjoy the aestheticity of God's creation, you will enjoy the moment, you will live the moment. That's what the writer is trying to project. And he is talking about the importance of sky gazing in the poem. By then, bid then what? Prayer, patience, alms, vows. Look at the May maze like an orchid bough. He is comparing the orchid bough. Orchid bough here means the stars, which is looking like a bunch of flowers. So the bunch of flowers in here is the reference to the flowers, which are Christian imagery the writer is trying to bring in. And look at March blooms like a mealed with white salon. There are indeed the barn within door houses, the shock, the peer's bright playing shut the spouse, the Christian home, Christ and his mother and all his hallows. He is saying it is a collective, he is trying to bring in the dead souls, the dead souls who has departed earth and reached the hands of gods in the form of stars. They are like beautifully there in the skies as stars, looking at the ancients who are looking at us, who are like merrimenting in the skies, and when we look back at them, we rejoice. So the writer is also trying to bring in the point that the beautiful creation of God and how a human soul is settled in the sky like in the form of a star. Let's move on to the themes discussed in the poem. Here the writer brings in the importance of God in nature. So every part of nature is God's creation, where man fails to enjoy it, where man fails to look at it, appreciate it, because of which man is facing a lot of social turmoil, which leads to the disturbance inside his head. And also he talks about faith and beauty. He is talking about faith in God. Just because man is losing faith in God, he is also failing in appreciating the creation of God and accepting the creation of God. Lastly, in the last part of the poem, where the writer is trying to represent the death, the people who lived, who cherished, who were like happy on earth are now happy, twinkling as stars in sky. But we as human beings are failing to look at people and to look at people around us, and also to look at people in the sky who has turned out to be the children of God in the hands of God. They are failing to be there. I hope the session was informative, and also it will help you to write more poems and get more inspired from other literary works. Thank you.